At my father's 60th birthday dinner, he raised his glass and said, "To my successful daughter, Bella." "Oh wait, that's the other one. You're just emotional baggage." Everyone laughed. Even my mother. I hadn't said a word yet. But 2 hours later, their grins were gone. Because that was when Forbes published my name on the under 30 billionaires list. I hadn't planned to go. They always made me feel like a ghost in my own family. Like I died years ago, and nobody had the guts to tell me. But it was my father's 60th, his milestone, his kingdom, his throne. So I showed up like the dutiful disappointment they expected. A gray dress, a quiet smile, and a heart full of landmines. The venue? Ridiculous. A 5-star steakhouse in Charleston where wine costs more than rent. I walked in alone. Everyone else arrived in cluster sisters with their husbands, cousins with their private school kids. My Uncle Glenn with his latest investment model, who looked barely 20. I approached the table. Nobody stood up. My mom gave me a once-over, blinked, and turned back to her scallops. Then it began, speech after speech, toast after toast. Praise for my sister Haley, the pediatric neurosurgeon who once dissected frogs in our freezer. A standing ovation for cousin Miles, who almost made it to the Olympics. Even Glenn's girlfriend got a mention for being young and energetic. When it was my turn to speak, I stood. Clear my throat. "Dad, I just wanted to say, sit down, Vera," he said, not even looking up. "No need to embarrass yourself. Everyone knows you're the creative one. You know, the unemployed one." Laughter from everyone. Even my mom let out a chuckle, eyes glued to her Chardonnay. I sat. My stomach flipped. My ears rang. I bit the inside of my cheek so hard it bled. That's when he raised his glass. "To my legacy, Haley, Miles, and those who actually contribute something to the world." Then he turned to me and to Vera for reminding us that not everyone's meant to soar. Some of us are just dead weight. Dead weight. What would you have done if your own father publicly humiliated you like that, while the rest of your family laughed in your face? I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I simply smiled, stood up, and said, "Excuse me for a moment." I walked to the bathroom, locked myself inside, and then I pulled out my phone. There it was, the notification. "Congratulations, Vera. You've made the Forbes 30 under 30 list, net worth $134 million. I stared at the screen. I had kept it quiet, all of it. The tech startup I co-founded, the Series B funding round, the silent acquisition by a retail giant that closed just yesterday. I wanted to succeed away from them, not because of their approval, but despite their ridicule. I didn't plan what came next, but karma did. Because 20 minutes later, the steakhouse manager walked in, red-faced, with a tablet in hand. The waiters were whispering. A ripple of confusion swept through the dining room. I returned to the table, calm, cold, ready. My father looked up, smug. "Lose your way to the bathroom?" I sat down and slid my phone across the table to my sister. "Why? Don't you read that out loud, Haley?" She did, out loud. Every word. The room went silent. Even the violinist in the corner stopped playing. I let it sink in. 1 second. 2. Then I turned to Dad. "Dad, wait, huh?" He blinked. "Wait, this is real?" "Yes." He chuckled nervously. "Well, that's incredible. You should have told us earlier." "Why?" I asked. "So you could claim credit for something you tried to beat out of me?" His face dropped. Mom looked like she was choking on her wine. Then came the whispers. Cousins checking their phones. And aunt muttering, "She's rich? Like ... rich. Someone in the back gasped and said, "She's trending on Twitter, right? Now ... And that's when the real fun began. The moment my name hit their ears, the whole room turned radioactive. It was like I dropped a nuclear truth bomb right onto their filet mignon. I looked across the table at the man who once told me I was lucky to even live under his roof. Now he looked like he needed CPR. Dad's voice cracked. "Wait ... You're joking, right? That article's gotta be fake." I tilted my head. "You think Forbes publishes fake billionaire lists just to mess with you?" Haley muttered. "How? Did you make that kind of money? You couldn't even finish community college." That one actually made me laugh. "Yeah, I was too busy building a logistics algorithm that now powers 70% of regional e-commerce supply chains." Blank stares. Then Mom piped up, "Why wouldn't?" "You tell us something this big, Vera, I turned slowly. The same reason I didn't tell you I was hospitalized last year. Or that I spent 3 months living out of my car when I was 23. Because no one here gives a damn, unless there's something in it for them. Silence. A pin could have screamed. That's when the steakhouse owner walked over, not the manager. The actual owner of the restaurant, Dot. He leaned in, grinning. Miss Calloway, just wanted to say congratulations. I've followed your company for a while now. If you ever consider investing in hospitality, give me a call. My father was speechless. The man just offered me the chance to buy the restaurant. They humiliated me and Uncle Glenn tried to joke it off. Hey, guess this means drinks are on Vera, huh? I snapped. No, drinks are on you, Glenn, considering you borrowed 20 grand from me 5 years ago and ghosted me. He turned red. Wait, how do you know it was me? That was anonymous. Right, I smirked. Except you used your own email. Address for the papal request genius. The table exploded into chaos, everyone talking over each other, deflecting, backpedaling. I sat back and watched it burn. Mom leaned toward me, desperate now. Vera, honey, this changes everything. Maybe we could host a family reunion at your place this year. No, I cut in. You mean my mansion in Miami? Where no one here would even make it past security. Then Haley tried her shot. Look, I know we've had ... issues, but if you ever need help managing your money, I could put you in touch with a few advisors. Haley, I said slowly. I own the firm that employs those advisors. Her mouth fell open. At this point, a crowd had formed. Other diners were eavesdropping. A teenager whispered to his mom, She's on TikTok right now. This is her, the deadweight billionaire. My father stood up. Enough? You think you can just waltz in here, humiliate this family with your money? My fist clenched. Double quotes, no, Dad. You did that on your own. He stormed out. Everyone stared after him. Stunned. Mom stood to follow, but paused, awkwardly patting my shoulder. We single quotes re ... proud of you. Too late. Much too late. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because I brought one more surprise with me. As I reached into my purse, Haley asked nervously, What are you doing? I pulled out a red velvet envelope and dropped it in the center of the table. They stared. What's that? Glenn asked. I smiled sweetly. Legal documents. I just bought the house you all grew up in. The one you love to take family Christmas. Photos at. Yeah, that one. Your nostalgia shack? It's mine now, Mom's voice cracked. Well, why would you do that? To remind you, I said, standing, that the girl you all dismissed as deadweight is now the anchor holding your past and future. I turned to leave, heels clicking like gunshots across the marble floor. But before I reached the door, I looked back. Enjoy dinner? It might be your last time here, unless you plan on applying for a server position. Then I walked out, while the rest of the restaurant broke into stunned whispers behind me. The night I left the steakhouse, I didn't go home. I didn't need to. I went straight to the newly signed deed sitting in my lawyer's inbox. That house, their shrine of superiority, was now legally mine, but it wasn't about revenge. Not at first. It was about reclaiming something they stole. Dignity, respect, the right to exist without shame. Then, I saw the group chat. Yeah, my sister forgot to remove me from the Calloway family WhatsApp. And what I read? It turned me from victorious to volcanic in seconds. She probably sold her soul to some tech bro. I still don't believe she built anything herself. She's mentally unstable. Always was. Probably just lucky. And the worst one. From Dad, she's still a failure. Just a richer one. I saw red. They couldn't stand that I'd made it without them. That their little scapegoat had climbed out of the pit they tossed her in and built a skyscraper on top of it. You ever been kicked so many times that your instinct isn't to cry, but to build an empire out of spite? That's what I did. And now it's time to use it. I called my assistant, book a contractor. Rush order. New locks on every door. Surveillance. System, motion trigger gates. Full renovation crew by morning. She paused. For the Charleston property? No, I said. For the Calloway Museum of Arrogance. The next day, they tried to visit. Of course, they did. It was Saturday family brunch day. I watched it all from my phone, sipping coffee on my penthouse. Balcony, 10 hours away. Gad's car pulled up. He walked up to the door, confidently, punched in the old code, beep, access denied. He tried again. Same result. Then he knocked out no answer. Because I told the contractors, don't open for anyone. Without my approval, then came Haley, slamming her hand on the glass, yelling into the Ring camera, "Vera, this isn't funny. We have traditions. You mean like mocking me for not going to med school? Or telling relatives I had a creative personality disorder?" They didn't get in not that day. Not the next and not the following week when my lawyer sent them the official notice. "You are trespassing on private property." That's when the call started. Mom first tearful, dramatic. "How could you do this to your family?" I answered with silence. Then Dad left a voicemail. Return the house? "Vera, you wouldn't have had the confidence to build anything without the lessons I taught you." "Oh, really? Like telling a 12-year-old she was too emotional to be loved? Or making me eat dinner in my room for a C+ in algebra? You think those were lessons, Dad? Or was that just you trying to break someone easier to control? What would you have done if your own father tried to gaslight your success after humiliating you in front of your whole bloodline? Comment below. I need to know I'm not the only one living this twisted movie. Anyway, things got weirder. 2 weeks. After the lockout, I got an invitation. You're cordially invited to the Calloway Family Reconciliation Brunch, held at a country club I own part of. They didn't even know that. Petty? Maybe, but I showed up. In red. Power red. When I walked in, everyone turned. Haley looked like she'd swallowed a lemon. Dad hugged me. For the first time in 8 years. Then tried to give a speech. "Vera, we want you to know how proud we are. You've blossomed into an incredible young woman." "Oh, so now I'm blossomed? Not a burden? Not a dead weight?" I waited until the end of the speech, then stood up, cleared my throat, and dropped my final bomb. I let the silence linger for 5, maybe 6 seconds. Enough for every fake smile in the room to melt. Then I smiled. "Thanks, Dad. It's nice to know my bank account finally made me lovable." He winced. Mom cleared her throat. Haley forced a laugh that sounded like a dying squirrel. I placed my clutch gently on the white tablecloth, opened it, and pulled out a sleek leather folder. "Since we're all being so honest today," I said, "I thought it'd be the perfect time to discuss some business." Dad's eyebrows twitched. "Business?" "Yes," I replied, flipping the folder open. "You know how I bought the old house?" Everyone nodded cautiously. Well, I didn't stop there. I slid a document across the table to my cousin, Miles. He picked it up, scanned it, and froze. "Wait, you bought the firm?" I nodded. "Yup, your dad's company." Glenn's little investment empire was hemorrhaging cash. So I acquired controlling interest. I now own 72%, which means I turned to Uncle Glenn. "You work for me now." He turned purple. "What the hell are you talking about? You can't just, oh, I can, and I did. You never read your contracts, do you?" The table erupted. Voices yelling, chairs scraping, Aunt Carol clutching her pearls like I committed a war crime. I stayed seated. UMBOTHERED. Then I raised my hand. I'm not done. I reached into the folder again and pulled out 3 more envelopes, addressed to Haley, Miles, and Dad. "Haley, I regret to inform you that the pediatric surgical clinic where you practice just lost its largest donor, me." Her mouth opened, closed, opened again. "But that's Vera. Those kids deserve better than a doctor who thinks her sister is mentally unstable." She turned white. I slid the second envelope toward Miles. "Your Olympic sponsor? Gone?" I redirected the funding to a local school sports program instead. "Sorry, champ." He swore under his breath. I dropped the last envelope right in front of Dad. He didn't even open it. "I assume this is about the tech consulting job," he growled. "You mean the job you got thanks to my algorithms? The one where you brag to clients that you taught your daughter everything she knows?" He said nothing. I leaned in. "You're done. Effective immediately." He slammed his hand on the table. "You can't fire me. I'm your father." "No," I said. "You're my first bully. You just happen to have custody." That shut him up. The entire brunch descended into chaos. But I wasn't done. I stood, holding my glass of water high, to family, the ones who doubted me, mocked me, and now work for me. I took a sip. Then walked out. And the craziest part? That wasn't even the end. 2 nights later, I got a call from Mom. Late. Broken voice. "Vera, your father, he's in the hospital." My stomach dropped. He'd had a stroke. Stress induced. I froze. Not because I wished him harm, but because the part of me that still craved his approval, the child, Buried under decades of shame rose like a ghost. I flew out that night, sat by his bed the next morning. Machines beeped. Tubes ran down his arms. His eyes opened briefly. Vera. He croaked. I'm sorry. And just like that, I didn't know who I was anymore. Was I still the wounded daughter seeking revenge? Or had I become the very monster I'd once feared? Would you forgive a parent who spent your whole life breaking you, only to beg for kindness when they finally fell? Let me know in the comments, because I was torn in half, and yet I knew what I had to do. I stood up, leaned in, whispered something that made his pulse jump on the monitor. Apology not accepted. Then I walked away, because even though I could forgive him, I didn't owe him peace. Not after the war he waged on my soul. 3 days after I walked out of that hospital room, I got served. My own sister was suing me for emotional distress. You read that right. The woman who once dumped ice water on me during a panic attack because I was being dramatic was now claiming I emotionally damaged her by pulling funding she thought she was entitled to. What's the price tag on a bruised ego, Haley? $1 million? 10? She demanded $4.2 million. I laughed so hard I nearly spit coffee on the legal paperwork. Lawyer attached screenshots of our family group chat, claiming I was publicly humiliating her and weaponizing wealth to fracture familial bonds. Oh, you mean the same group chat where she called me a mental case with Wi-Fi? Game on, sis. I didn't hire just any attorney. I hired Genevieve. Monroe, litigator, Harvard grad. Shark in heels, first call she made. The Haley's boss. Turned out she'd violated HIPAA privacy regulations 5 times by gossiping about patients in that very same chat thread. Oops. Within 48 hours, Haley's lawsuit was dropped. Within 72, she was fired. She showed up at my apartment building, mascara, streaked hair, and a sloppy bun, looking like a Lifetime movie villain in her third act spiral. Vera, she sobbed. I didn't mean it. I was angry. You sued me, Haley. I was scared. You have so much power now. You tried to ruin me in court. Okay, but maybe we could, I don't know, partner on a foundation, start fresh. That's when I realized what this had all become. It wasn't about love. It wasn't about family. It was about access. Access to me. To my money. My connections. My name. They didn't want a sister. They wanted a sponsor. So I gave her one last answer. No. She stepped back, stunned. No to what? No to everything. Her eyes narrowed. You're going to end up alone, you know. That? No friends. No family. Just your stupid money. I smiled. Good thing money doesn't fake cry on my doorstep. She turned and stormed off, screaming into her phone. Probably calling Mom. Oh, right. Mom. She left me a voicemail the next day. I raised you better than this, Vera. No. Mom. You tolerate me long enough to keep up appearances at church and HOA meetings. You raised me the way a gardener prunes weeds aggressively and without mercy. 2 weeks later, the hospital called. Dad was being discharged. He requested to stay at my house during recovery. I nearly choked. He wants to stay at the house he mocked me in for 20 years. Would you let the man who ridiculed your existence move into your home after he destroyed your spirit? Tell me in the comments, because I seriously considered saying yes, just to poison the air with my silence. Instead, I sent a message. There's a rehab center with ocean views and private chefs. I've paid for 6 months. You'll get daily massages, therapy, and peace. All the things you refuse to give me. He replied with one word. Why? I said nothing. Sometimes silence is the loudest act of grace. But it didn't end there, because a month later, while I was speaking at a startup conference in Austin, I noticed something odd during Q&A. A woman in the back row, sunglasses, hoodie. After my talk, she approached me backstage. Vera Calloway? Yes. She pulled out a badge. Private investigator. Your mother hired me. My stomach dropped. For what? She hesitated. To dig up dirt. To find something. Anything. That could discredit you. Maybe get custody of your assets. My heart pounded. She wants you declared mentally unfit. I stared at the badge. My mouth went dry. She what? The investigator nodded grimly. She wanted records. Medical, psychiatric, anything. Even attempted to offer a bribe to a former therapist of yours. My hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from rage. This wasn't just betrayal. This was war. My own mother tried to fabricate a mental illness to take control of my company. My life. My legacy. All to protect her ego from the horror of her daughter winning. I inhaled slowly and made a decision. I was done playing defense. 2 hours later, my legal team was assembled on a call. Genevieve, my attorney, looked dead serious. We can open a civil case for slander, defamation, malicious intent. Hell, maybe even criminal conspiracy if we dig deep enough. I gave her the green light. Then I did something even more brutal. I hosted a live stream. Over 300,000 followers tuned in. I laid it all out. No tears. No soft piano music. Just facts. The woman who gave birth to me tried to declare me mentally unfit to seize control of what I built. But guess what? I have the receipts, screenshots, audio, legal testimony. The chat exploded. People were furious, supportive, outraged. Then I dropped the final bomb. And since my mother loves control so much, I've made a decision. Every dime I would have left her in my will, it's being donated to a women's shelter for survivors of narcissistic abuse. In her name. Yes, in her name. Hours later, I got the text. Just 3 words. You'll regret this. But I didn't, because 3 days later, a letter arrived. From my father. A real one. Handwritten. No sarcasm. No cruelty. Just a man stripped of his pride. Vera, I don't know if you'll ever forgive me, but watching your mother try to destroy you opened my eyes. I enabled her. I failed you. I see that now. If you can ever speak to me again, I'll be here. I read it 3 times. Then set it down and walked outside, barefoot on the marble balcony of my Miami condo. The sun was rising. The skyline glittered. And for the first time in my life, I felt clean. Not vindicated, not powerful, but clean. Because I didn't just survive them. I rebuilt myself out of the ashes they poured on my dreams. And here's the twist no one saw coming. I didn't sue my mom. I didn't destroy her publicly. Instead, I did the one thing she could never do to me. I cut her off. Entirely. No contact. No warnings. Just gone, blocked, deleted, disappeared. Because sometimes the real revenge isn't destruction, it's disconnection. So let me ask you, if the people who raised you turned out to be your worst enemies, would you burn the bridge or build your own kingdom on the other side of it? Comment below, because some families don't need therapy. They need distance and locked gates. I walked back inside, poured myself a glass of champagne. And toasted the girl they called deadweight. Turns out, she was just carrying everyone else. That's the end of today's story. Did things turn out the way you thought? Or were there some surprises along the way? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to hit the like button. And if you haven't joined the community yet, now's the perfect time. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you're always the first to catch new stories. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next adventure.